What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are going to be talking about a video that was uploaded by the YouTuber by the name of Gabriella. That's her channel name, which is pretty cool. This video talks about her battle and her struggle and her eventual surgery that she ended up getting with lipedema. And if you're not familiar with lipedema, she will explain it in her video. We've talked about it a little bit on the channel. And when I saw this video, I really liked it because it wasn't just, hey, I have lipedema and I don't really know what to do, which is not the fault of anyone that's struggling with lipedema. I don't want to make it seem like that, but it was just very interesting seeing someone talk about the fact that they have this, and then she explains her struggles with it, but then also she kind of goes over what she's going to do about it and how she's going to deal with it surgically, right? And so without further ado, let's just get into this video. So this is the video right here. Again, it's by Gabriella. It will be linked in the description. There will also be a couple other videos that we're going to be going over, like short little clips of other videos that she has uploaded talking about this. So all that stuff will be linked in the description. Make sure you check that out because we're not going to go over this entire video or any of the entire video. So make sure you go ahead and check those videos out. But without further ado, let me just let her kind of explain everything.
Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Please excuse the fact that I'm like half in my pajamas today. It is so cold in Brighton, which I absolutely love, but my flat has humongous windows so it just doesn't heat up very quickly in the winter time. So I'm just all bundled up. I've got my cup of tea right here, lovely, ready to jump into this video. Now this video is one that I've been wanting to talk more in depth about for a long time, but it's only just felt like the time to do that because something is being done about it. I'm not gonna lie, it is a hard video for me to film. You guys know that I don't really show much of my body online. And
it's interesting because that's something I've noticed when, obviously I don't have any experience myself with lipedema, but there's like, I feel like there's kind of parallels with people that struggle with loose skin, right? And I've noticed that a lot of times when people are on their way to actually get loose skin surgery, to get it surgically removed, they're a little bit more open about their skin. They start filming it more. Maybe they start showing it more. I don't really know what that's about. I'm sure there's a reason why people, like, maybe you're just more comfortable sharing it because you know that you're going to be getting rid of it. That sounds like so negative, but I don't know. It's just something that I've noticed. So I thought that was interesting, that was something that she kind of was also doing here.
And a huge part of the reason is because of what I'm going to talk about. So it is pretty vulnerable for me to be filming this and including photos and videos and stuff, but also I think it's incredibly important to educate people on the subject matter, which is lipedema. I'm not sure on the correct pronunciation of lipedema, so I'm just going to be saying it like that. I have heard people say lipedema as well, but I'm just going to go with lipedema. That's what like flows out of me the easiest.
I've always heard people say lipedema, and so that's what I'm going to say, all right? And so I just, not because I think she's wrong, but that's just what I've heard, and that's, again, what flows out of my mouth as well.
Okay, so let's get cracking. Basically, by the time you're watching this video, I will have had my first surgery to remove lipedema on my calves. And I am gonna go into what lipedema is, the treatment of it, the surgery, the cost of the surgery, and a little bit of background on my journey of what it's been like to deal with lipedema since puberty. So this is probably gonna be quite a long video, but grab a snack, grab a drink if you are interested in learning more about it and learning why I am gonna be having surgery. I'm actually going to be having 3 total. It is going to be a big undertaking, and it's something that I didn't want to hide from my channel, when I do think that raising awareness for lipedema is very important. It's something that isn't spoken about enough, and it could have helped me a lot while going through this journey if I'd have had someone to look up to who also was dealing with it and had more information about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I have noticed from like other people talking about lipedema and their struggles with it is how many people struggle with it without even knowing what it is. Like, so many people that have lipedema, probably right now, that might be even watching this video, but I know that watched her video because I was reading some of the comments of people saying, I watched this video and I decided to look into it and I think I have this, right? So many people that will have this disease that literally don't know, and they just feel like they are doing something wrong. They're trying to lose weight and they're just not losing weight in their arms and in their legs, and they don't understand why, and they feel like a failure. And like, that would be so hard to deal with. Like, I can't imagine that. I really can't imagine that. And so I think that this is very important. That's why I try and talk about it quite a bit on the channel, because I've noticed more and more people struggling with it. I don't know what that's about. But I feel like there's just so many people that don't know anything about it. And it's something that's plaguing quite a bit of people.
Written a little list. I say a little list. I've written a huge list of everything I want to talk about. So before I go fully into my journey with lipedema, I do want to give a little introduction onto what it is. If you are a little bit squeamish, I am going to include a couple of photos. I personally don't think that they're too squeamish, but maybe just look away from the video at this part if you don't want to see like the inside of what fat cells look like. Fantastic. If you've never heard about lipedema before, lipedema is a progressive disease that affects mostly women, and it's characterized by an accumulation of pathological fats, predominantly in the lower limbs and arms. These diseased fat cells accumulate water and fat.
I feel like this picture is such a good representation of like what I've seen, right? Like it's just wild, man. Like how it really does just accumulate on basically like your limbs, right? Your arms and your legs, pretty much. Like the midsection will be, relatively snatched, but it's just like there's basically like nothing you can do to get rid of it. There's no diet that you can do. You can be in a deficit and it just doesn't matter. Like that would be so frustrating, man.
Gradually increasing in size. I'm going to put a photo on screen right now of the difference between normal fat cells and lipedema fat.
So right here it says if you're not looking at the screen, so normal fat is like soft, fluffy texture. We've all seen that image, right? I remember when I was in like elementary school and they had it with them like this is 5 pounds of fat, and they were trying to tell us not to eat hot Cheetos as much. I remember being like, but I like hot Cheetos, and so I continued to eat them. But then the lipedema fat is firm, uneven texture, firm nodules seen and felt directly below the skin surface. So you'll notice that people that have lipedema, their skin is like lumpy, right? Is I think the word she uses later. It just looks different, right? And like the fat clearly looks very different. It's like in these little pockets, right? And so it's just different.
Fat cells, you can see how differently they're formed, but little by little with the growth of these lipedema cells and the increase in pressure in the tissue, symptoms start to appear. Now, what are the symptoms? Let's go through them. The main symptom of lipedema is heaviness in the affected limbs, so your legs and your arms, spontaneous pain and pressure, a tendency to bruise, which, my God, do I bruise. I'm like Ross from Friends. I bruise like a peach. These are my legs right now. You can see before I've even gone into like what really lipedema is. Just look at my bruises, everyone. It is a bit ridiculous. Unlike normal fat cells, lipedema fat doesn't respond adequately to diet or exercise, which means that people with lipedema maintain the disproportion between limbs and the rest of their body over time. So as these cells build up, it becomes increasingly harder to diminish them. So again, I'm just gonna put pictures on screen of what lipedema can look like over time. The way that I would describe it, especially on the legs, is it becomes like you're wearing a pair of stockings that start at your ankles, and someone fills the stockings with like sand or something, and you've just got these big bulgy legs that start from your ankles. It doesn't affect your feet, so
yeah, it's so interesting because like I've seen photos and it almost looks, and I hope this isn't insensitive, I'm not trying to be, but it almost reminds me of like how like a toddler's or like a young like child's legs will look like with like the baby fat. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like that's kind of what it looks like, right? It's like it's like there's no ankle at all. It just doesn't exist. It just turns into the leg, and that's like what it looks like to me.
Just have normal feet, but it starts at your ankles and then they just bulge out all the way up. You've got no visible knees, no visible ankles in the later stages of lipedema, which is something that bothers me a lot. The fact that I don't have definition in my knees or my ankles, I really hate that. The cause for lipedema is unknown, although it is known that there's a marked hereditary and hormonal component. And the first signs usually appear with hormonal changes like the onset of puberty, after pregnancy or menopause. Okay, so now you know what lipedema is, let's jump into my personal experience. It is something that I've touched on in a couple of videos in the past, but I've never really dove deep into my personal experience with lipedema because it is something that I have been so self-conscious about. Before we start, I just want to say clearly that everybody is beautiful. Everybody on this earth deserves to be loved. Everybody on this earth deserves to not feel ashamed of who they are, whether that be due to appearance, sexuality, gender. Like, you deserve to feel valued and loved for the person that you are. I am going to be talking about.
So I really think that I really like that she puts this like disclaimer there, because I can understand, and I can empathize with someone that might, you know, be struggling with lipedema, that might not be able to get the surgery because we'll find out it's not cheap, right? And so they don't have this option. And so it's really easy for videos like this to really bum someone out that might not have the option to quote unquote get rid of it. It's something that happens quite a bit with like the loose skin, with people that get surgeries. I know a lot of people, I've had people message me that say like it makes them feel worse. And like you could say whether you like it's I don't want to say that they're right or wrong, but this is just what the messages I've received is that a lot of times they will follow someone that has loose skin and they will feel like seen, and they will feel like, man, I feel a connection to this person. And then the people will get rid of the loose skin, and they will almost, the people that still have the loose skin almost feel slighted from that, because maybe the person is like very like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have the skin anymore. And like, I finally, I can feel, you know, beautiful. And it's like, again, like, I'm not saying that person is intentionally trying to make those people feel bad, but that is what happens. And so I do think it's important to, even if you're not trying to upset someone or hurt someone's feelings, like understand that if someone is at the position that you're at, like, you know, just try and use empathy. Again, I'm sure there are people going to disagree with me here, but I like that she put this disclaimer in there because I do think it's important. And I think it shows that she does care about like her platform and how she can affect other people. And I think that's really important.
My experience, and I am going to put pictures on screen. Now, if you are triggered by seeing different body types and hearing people's personal thoughts on how they feel about their own body, please click out of this video. I really don't want this to be triggering to anybody. I really don't want it to come across that I think that anyone's body, if it looks remotely like what mine looks like now or before I lost weight, anywhere on my journey, I don't want anyone to think that I think that is a bad body and it's not worthy, because that is truly not the case. I do just want to speak honestly about my experience and how it has affected me. And I think honestly, going through bullying and the amount of trolling that I have hasn't helped. And that is kind of a unique experience added to this as well, with having to be on camera. So let's jump in. Growing up, I always had bigger legs, but I was bigger everywhere. I was a larger child. I was a larger teenager. By the time that I was 18,
I'm sorry, but this picture,
I was a larger child. I was a
this picture right here, like, I remember when shirts like this were so popular, and I wanted shirts like I don't know what it was about like the big words that took up the whole shirt, but I'm telling you, man, they were everywhere. They were everywhere. You get any saying you can think of, they were on there. That was random, but it just time capsule, man.
A larger teenager. By the time that I was 18, I weighed around 280 pounds. So I was creeping on up to the 300-pound mark. Food truly was just my way of coping with the world. I was very bullied at school, and I have really gone into this story before, so I'm just gonna keep it kind of vague here. But that is the reason why I did gain so much weight. I basically found comfort in food and developed very unhealthy bad habits. I tried everything I could at the time to lose weight. I joined Weight Watchers. I tried every diet under the sun. I saw a dietitian for a couple of years, but eventually when I was 18, it got to a point where surgery was the best option for me at the time. So I did have a gastric sleeve. Now, as I said before this, my body was bigger everywhere, so I didn't notice that I had lipedema. Honestly, I just thought I was in a bigger body. But as I started to...
That's something that you hear a lot. Like, people don't even realize that they have it, right? This is a lot of times it seems to affect people that are already kind of overweight. And again, I'm not an expert. I don't know why that is, but that's something that I have noticed. I will say that something that I feel like I have seen is that while you cannot, and this might sound very ignorant of me and I might be completely off, but from what I've seen, no, you cannot get rid of lipedema, right? You can't, like, if you have it in your arms and in your legs, like, it's always going to, for lack of a better term, it's always going to look different, I guess is the best way to explain it. But I do think that I don't want this video to make people feel helpless, because I have seen people like lose weight and it does help it, or it will slow it down from progressing. So it's not like if you have it, it's like you know, you've lost a hope, there's no reason to even try. I think it's one of those things that it is important to try and be as healthy as you can, and all of that stuff will help, right? It's not going to fix it, but it will help, right? And so hopefully you don't feel helpless if you're watching this and you feel like you might have that, because I do think that like working on yourself and trying to be as healthy as possible will help it, and just like giving up will only make it worse. Again, I know it's easier said than done, but
lose the weight. I think I lost around, I think it was like 9 to 10 stone, which is amazing. I did feel wonderful, but
so I think 10 stone is 140 pounds. I think a stone is 14 pounds. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I'm obviously not from the UK.
The weight fell off my body, I was left with much larger legs. And I mean, lipedema for me personally doesn't affect my arms as much. It definitely is there on my arms, but it's not as prominent as it is on my legs. As I mentioned before, diet and exercise don't adequately lessen the symptoms. But before I knew more about lipedema, I tried every fad diet under the sun after I'd had my weight loss surgery to try and shift the fat on my legs, because I just didn't know why it was there. I didn't have a word for what it was. I just thought my body was disproportionate. And
God, man, that would be so frustrating. So frustrating. I seriously can't even imagine that.
I had to eat less calories, exercise more, take on incredibly unhealthy habits, quite honestly, to try and shift the weight on my legs, but it just would not go. My legs didn't get any smaller over time, no matter how badly I treated my body when it came to food and exercise, and that really, really affected my mental health. While I was dealing with the fact that I had lost so much weight, but none had really gone off my legs, I started my YouTube channel, which was so amazing for my confidence. Truly, it really was at first. I felt like people were seeing me for the first time ever, because when I was in my bigger body, I just felt honestly like people ignored me. People didn't really want to talk to me. They didn't really have any interest in.
So a couple things. I'm smiling because I just remember this era of YouTube and style, and it brings me back. But also I relate to that to an extent. Like, I definitely felt like I didn't, like, it was really weird when I was bigger. I felt like everyone was staring at me, but I also felt like no one knew I was there. That's the best way that I could explain it. Like, I think I've talked about this recently in the video, but it was like, I think I said I was like a really weird, ugly couch. Like, a lot of people noticed it, but they didn't really care or something. I don't remember. But like, I felt like everyone was staring at me, but no one cared or really looked that much, is the best way that I can explain it. And it's always been hard for me to like differentiate because like for the most part, most of my like interactions are online. So it's like, am I getting more interactions because of my size, or is it because I have this YouTube channel? It's really hard for me to differentiate, because like when I go out in public, like recently I just did a run club. I've been doing a run club pretty much every week. PB Run Club. It's really fun. If you're ever in San Diego, you should check it out. Wednesdays and Saturday mornings. Wednesday nights, Saturday mornings. But there's like 300 people that do it. And I get there and I'm not it doesn't feel like there's a bunch of people that are like, wow, look at this guy. He's so attractive. Like, I talk to the same few people every time. Like, I don't know. So that's maybe a personal thing, but yeah.
In me, how people with larger bodies are treated is vile. And having been in a larger body and now being in a small body, the difference is disturbing, quite honestly disturbing. So anyways, as I did lose the weight and started my YouTube channel, obviously you couldn't see my legs on my YouTube channel. So I gained a lot of confidence, honestly, by just having like this on screen. I mean, mind the jumper right now, but by just having my top half on screen, I was getting so much confidence. But then came the time to meet new friends and meet other YouTubers. So when I did make my YouTube friends and I knew that they were going to be vlogging me, I thought, what can I do to kind of lessen the look of the lipedema in my legs and make my legs seem more proportionate? So I basically wore these tights that were actually so amazing. They're by Spanx, and I will leave a link to them below if any of you guys need a good pair of suck-in tights, because they did work very well for me. But I wore these Spanx tights under everything. So I would wear Spanx tights and then jeans, or like Spanx tights and then a skirt. And there was this one outfit that I wore all the time.
It's kind of similar to like compression gear. So for me, I don't, like right now I'm not wearing compression gear. I only really ever wear it when I'm doing workouts, just because like for me, it's about, I don't want things to move as much, right? So I'll wear a compression shirt if I'm running, and like compression shorts when I'm running, because I got a lot of movement there. And so for me, I don't, like if people see, like, I don't know. For me, I guess, I don't think I'm like the most confident guy. Like I really don't. I'm not that confident, but like if someone sees my loose skin, like if I'm at the gym, like doing a bodybuilding workout, I wear stringers. Like you can definitely, sometimes my nipple be hanging out, you know? It is what it is, right? But like, again, I understand everyone is very different. And so that, like it's nice to be able to find something, but yeah, that's not fun, right? Like wearing compression stuff like if I was wearing compression stuff all the time, that would not be comfortable. Like it's fine when I'm doing a workout. It doesn't really bother me that much, but once I'm done with that workout, I want to take that compression stuff off. You know, I don't have it on for hours upon hours upon hours. So that was probably not very fun.
That I actually felt okay in, and looking back now, it actually melts my heart, because I mean, this is not my style nowadays, but it was the only outfit that I felt like I looked kind of proportionate in, so I would just wear it all the time. It was basically this black skirt with these Spanx tights underneath, and on top of the Spanx tights I would then wear another pair of suck-in shorts on top of that. So I had like double suck-in, then I wore my skirt, and then I wore this blue spotty top, and it was the only outfit that I felt remotely good in, because I felt like my legs didn't look that huge. But because I was so self-conscious, I wore outfits like this in the summertime, and I used to get so much trolling from people being like, why on earth is she wearing tights in the summer and a long sleeve top? And like, it was just because I was so self-conscious, and I didn't want the world to know about my lipedema at that point, because I didn't even really know what it was. And like I said, it was
sometimes I do feel like it's probably more I don't want to say more difficult, but I can understand if you're someone that can like hide the thing, right? Like if you only have a tiny bit of loose skin, like it's really not much and it's not super obvious, that could be almost harder than someone where it's just like there's no hiding it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like if you can hide it and you're used to doing that, like you don't even have to like, you feel like you don't even have to worry about people finding out. And then if someone finds out, it's like this huge secret that like they were like, what the heck? But if it's like super obvious, when someone sees you, they're like, oh, okay, that's there. There's no secret. They just know, right? You know, if they see you, they know, and it is what it is. But like, if you feel like you can hide it for a while, and then if they find out eventually, right? That's why I talk about when people ask me about loose skin and dating, I'm like, I think it's something you should bring up relatively soon, because the longer you go without telling someone, the more nervous you are about it and like shameful you are. Like you feel like you're hiding something, and then, you know, that person might feel kind of weird about it, right? So again, not on topic, but
okay when I was on my channel, because I made sure not to show my legs, but when I was in other people's vlogs, I got a hell of a lot of trolling about my body, and that affected my mental health a lot. I just didn't want to be in videos anymore because I was so ashamed of my body and why I felt like I couldn't just wear shorts like other people, why my legs were so much bigger than like every other part of me. I just didn't understand it. When I first moved out, I moved to Brighton, and I got a personal trainer kind of pretty quickly after I moved here to see if that could shift the fat on my legs, and obviously it didn't. Nothing helped. I was actually in quite a small body at this point. I was wearing like size 10, I think, which for me is the smallest weight I've ever been, and I don't think it suits my frame actually. I think a size 12 suits my body. I don't think anything smaller than that looks healthy on me, but I wasn't treating my body well at all.
I just love hearing people not trying to be as small as humanly possible. It makes me happy.
All because I just wanted to get rid of this fat on my legs. So I was going to personal training, I think probably like 4 or 5 times a week, and I wasn't eating the correct amount of calories, I'm gonna be honest now. I was just so self-conscious, and I would have done anything to be in a body that felt proportionate. When you're dealing with lipedema, it's not just the vanity, it's not just the physical effects that it has on you. As I've shown you before, my legs bruise so easily. I also get a lot of pain in them. I feel like my knees are under a lot more stress because there is so much more weight on my legs. It does affect my knees, and I was really feeling that during personal training, but I wasn't saying anything about it because I was just so keen to get rid of this fat. Anyways, the damage I was doing to my body, my mental health, the trolling, the bullying I'd already been through when I was a lot bigger, All of these things mixed together made me feel incredibly hopeless, and I blamed myself a lot for not being able to lose this fat, which resulted in a horrible relationship with food and exercise. And it's taken me a long time to come back from that.
Sadly, that's a tale as old as time when we're talking, like, not obviously specifically about lipedema, but just when you're talking about someone that's like losing weight, and then it's so easy to just keep going and feeling like, you know, you're just like chasing that number on the scale. You want it to get lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. That's why I try and talk to people about how, like, you don't need to have some random arbitrary goal weight. Like, being smaller isn't always the answer. Like, yeah, it's just sad because, like, this is a story that so many people have, that so many people go through, and it bums me out because, like, you work so hard to lose the weight, and then you just feel like you can never stop. And like, when people have that mentality, it's so hard to know when to stop, and then you feel like you stop, and then you maybe even gain a little bit of weight, but maybe the rest of the world and most people see, like, oh, they're looking better, they look healthier, but you just feel so bad about the fact that you're not at the lowest weight that you've ever been, and you're a failure. And then that's when people end up, they spiral out of control, and they lose all this weight, and they start to gain a little bit, and they can't handle the fact that they're not at their lowest, and then they balloon back up to where they were before. That's why sorry.
This is why I think it's so important for me to raise awareness about lipedema, because if I'd have known about it sooner, if I'd have known that there was a reason why my legs were so much bigger than the rest of my body, there was a reason why diet and exercise wasn't working to get rid of it, I wouldn't have punished myself so hard. It wasn't my fault. But obviously none of this was helping, and it just made me feel worse and worse about myself and my body, and I just wish that I'd have known more about it at that time. I wish that I'd have known that there is help out there. There are things that you can do to slow down the progression, but also surgical intervention is an option as well, which is what I'm gonna be having now. You're gonna go into treatment in a second, but just carrying on with my journey. I now know that the best way to treat lipedema is with something called WAL, which is water jet assisted liposuction. But at the time I didn't know anything. I thought that I needed a leg lift. If you've watched my weight loss surgery video, you will know that this is a surgery that, it was the worst surgery I've ever had, for one, but it was also the wrong surgery to have. When it comes to lipedema, there is a specialist way to treat it because the fat cells are so different to normal fat. But the more you know. So I went ahead and had something called a bilateral thigh lift, and that surgery went very wrong. The reason it went wrong is because it wasn't the right treatment for lipedema, but my surgeon didn't mention that. I thought it would be a cure for everything, but I ended up with super lumpy legs. And if you look at my legs now, I mean, I am not going to enjoy sharing these pictures. They are something that I don't, you know, it's hard for me to come to terms with my legs. It still is, but at the same time, I'm trying to raise awareness. Okay, so if you look at the picture, you will see that my thighs specifically, I haven't ever had my calves operated on, but my thighs ended up being super lumpy. And this is basically where he went in with normal liposuction when he was doing the bilateral thigh lift, but normal liposuction isn't the best thing for lipedema fat because the fat cells are so different. It needs to be treated so specifically that basically he got rid of some of the fat, but then a lot of the fat is left. So where he's got rid of it, that skin is like right to my muscle, but then where it's left, I've got lumps of fat, and that is what you can see in my thighs. I just wish I'd known more at the time and know.
Man, that would be so frustrating, bro. Like, to feel like you've done everything and then you're like, all right, I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to get liposuction, whatever. This isn't working. And then you get that, and then that ends up making it, like, she feels worse. Like, bro, I feel that, man.
Known that this wasn't the surgery that I should have been having, but I didn't. And I mean, I don't want to live my life with regrets, but if I did have one regret, it would be having this surgery, because what started off as me being self-conscious about my legs turned into me being super self-conscious about my legs, because in my opinion, after this surgery, they were now worse than they were before. I didn't think there was a fix for lipedema until fairly recently when I found Dr. Burgess's page. He is a specialist lipedema surgeon. He is incredible. incredible. I have honestly been stalking his work for the last year, and just looking at the before and after transformations of his patients is incredible to me. And it does make me sad that I went through the bilateral thigh lift that went so wrong. If you want to know more about that surgery, go watch my weight loss video, because I do go into like the recovery of that, and that they got infected, and it was just honestly the worst surgery I've ever had. And the fact that I went through that when it just wasn't what I needed, the surgeon that I went to clearly just didn't really know about lipedema. And I mean, if we're being honest here, the surgeon that I went to was kind of just like a yes man, which is the worst kind of surgeon to be.
She says, it says on text, he is no longer working, so.
And that is the exact opposite of Dr. Burgess. But anyways, I am going to leave a link to his Instagram below. If any of you have got lipedema or you just want to know more about it, go and look at the transformation photos. His work is incredible, completely life-changing. And I've actually spoken to, I think, 4 of the patients that have had this surgery with Dr. Burgess who have nothing but positive things to say. Like, their life has been completely changed in obviously the visual aspect, but also the pain and heaviness aspect as well. Let's move on to the treatment section. So how can you treat lipedema? As I've previously mentioned, diet and exercise don't diminish lipedema. They can help a little, and I have found that. I mean, recently I have lost 40 pounds and my legs have diminished in size a little, but it hasn't got rid of the bulk of the cells that are there. But there are certain things that you can do to slow down the onset. So you can wear compression daily, moderate exercise, especially underwater gymnastics or aqua gym. This is specifically good because, as I mentioned, when I was doing personal training, I had huge issues with my knees. They hurt so bad, whereas when you're in the water, it takes that pressure off of your legs. So
this is also really good for just people that might be like really overweight. Pool workouts are awesome.
So that is a really good sport to do if you have got lipedema, and a specific massage called MLD, which I will go into in a second. These measures don't get rid of lipedema, they only delay the development of it. So as soon as you stop doing these things, the lipedema will just continue to worsen. Truly, the only thing that does help a lot is surgery. If you have lipedema and you don't want surgery, you can absolutely live an incredibly happy life with it. I think my view on my legs has been skewed a lot more because of the bullying and the trolling that I've had while being online. But if you do want to go ahead and have surgery, let's talk a little bit about that. So the most innovative technique to date to treat lipedema is WAL. This is water jet assisted liposuction, which removes the diseased fat cells without destroying the surrounding connective tissue structures, blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerves. It depends on the stage of lipedema that you have. I'm pretty sure I've got stage 3. I will have to double check that. If it's different, I will write on screen. But from what I remember, I've got stage 3, and I will be undergoing 3 surgeries to lessen my lipedema. So the first one starts on my calves, the second one will be the front of the thighs, and the third one will be the back of the thighs, flanks, and buttocks. I love that word. Each operation typically lasts between 120 and 210 minutes, and you'll be in the hospital overnight to be monitored by the incredible lipomedical team. The surgery basically removes a large volume of fat, which differs obviously from person to person. But you guys, the before and after photos are just insane. Again, I will leave Dr. Burgess's Instagram below. Please check them out while you're continuing to watch this video so you can see the incredible difference. After the surgery is done, it's super important to have something called MLD, which is manual lymphatic drainage. And you've got to have that for a minimum of 4 days a week for the first 7 to 10 days, and then 1 to 2 days for the remainder of the month. This really helps to aid with swelling and how quickly you're going to heal from these surgeries. Okay, now on to price. What does this cost? I did want to include this section because I know that there will be a few people with lipedema who do want to go down the surgical route, who are interested. So a couple of details. I'm going to be having my surgeries in Madrid
So she goes over, we're going to kind of skip through this a little bit just because I just want to get to like the price. So she does go over the fact that she is getting this paid for from the doctor because I think that they probably realized that she had such a following. She could probably make a video about it. Obviously that will be good business for him, but we'll be able to get him, in front of a lot of eyes, which I think that this definitely has worked. But I just wanted to skip ahead a little bit and just end up sharing the price. I'm not entirely sure if it's like maybe cheaper because it was in Spain versus like if you're from America, if there's something similar, but it would be a lot more expensive. I'm not entirely sure about that, but she does go over all the price. So again, I would highly recommend watching this entire video so you could see all of that. But we're gonna skip ahead to the actual like the end price that it all ends up being.
There's a lot involved with this process and it is going to be completely life-changing for me, but I did want to break down the price. You also do need to factor accommodation into that because you do need to stay for at least 10 days in Spain after your surgery to be monitored and to get the appropriate MLD with the people that they trust there. The decision to have this done isn't something that I've taken lightly.
So she has it on screen and I think it's either euros or pounds. I'm not entirely sure what this is. I'm sorry. I think it's an E for euros. So it's 17,237 euros. And it says not including accommodation. So, whatever you'd have to pay to be whoever staying. And then the MLD at home when you get home. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. But yeah, that's how much it ended up costing.
And years. Since I first knew what lipedema was, it is something that I've wanted to be treated, but obviously with this being like a 3-step process, it is such a huge undertaking. It's something that I've put off and put off until I found the absolute perfect surgeon for me. The trust I have in Dr. Burgess and his team is incredible. You can ask as many questions as you need to ask. You can ask for as much information as you need. They are there every step of the way and they truly do care. And this experience so far has been amazing. But I do just want you to know that obviously it's not something that I have taken lightly. It is a really huge undertaking, but I'm gonna be 29 this year, I'm gonna be 30 next year, and I just can't keep feeling the way I feel about my legs when there is something I can do to help them, in my personal opinion.
So that was everything I wanted to show you in this video, but she has a video where she actually goes and gets the surgery, an entire vlog. We're not gonna watch that whole thing. But so this is from that video where she goes and gets the surgery. So again, I would highly recommend you check this out. But this is the video right here, and she does like a little bit of a kind of like before and after. But I actually found a short that she uploaded, which I think does a really, really good job of showing everything like really, really shortly. And so we're gonna go ahead and go over this.
Disease called lipedema. Lipedema is where fat cells build up on your legs and arms and no amount of diet or exercise help to shift them. As you can see, I don't have visible ankles or knees. It's super painful and I bruise like a peach. I decided to undergo surgery with Dr. Burgess from the Lipa medical team in Madrid. This is a 3-part process starting with my calves, which I very happily waved goodbye to, and when I woke up, I was blessed with seeing my knees for the first time since puberty. A huge part of recovery is having a massage called manual lymphatic drainage every day for the first 10 days. This just helps to get rid of the extra fluid in your legs and make recovery a lot easier. I'm enjoying the simple pleasures like being able to wear high socks for the first time in my life. Recovery has been hard, but I'm 5 weeks in and I've vlogged the
look at that. That's incredible. Incredible.
Whole process. It's been a roller coaster, but I'm so excited to share it with you on YouTube. Click the link in my bio to follow the full journey.
So that's that video. And then the last thing I wanted to show you, I was going through her YouTube. This might be a little weird, but it is what it is. But she has a brutally honest Skims Try-On review, but she has a part where she is, I don't know, is this weird? I don't know. I just feel like this is just so cool, where she tries on these underwear and you can see a little bit of her legs, and it's
really light cream, but I find bottoms like this so flattering because they just cinch in at your waist, and I've got quite a big bum, and they cover all of my bum cheeks, which is
like, dude, what is so cool about that is that she was talking about how before she was afraid to even film her lower half, right? And the fact that she is now filming herself in underwear, like in front of thousands and thousands of people, knowing that they're going to watch, like, that's just cool. And that makes me happy. And so I just wanted to share those few videos and that story because lipedema is something that we've been talking about more on the channel. And I felt like this was such a good video explaining what it is, someone's experience with it, and them, dealing with it in their own way. And so again, there will be links to everything down in the description. Make sure you check it out. Give her a like, give her a subscribe, do all that stuff. I just think this was really, really cool. If you are, someone that might think you're struggling with lipedema, hopefully maybe this gave you some information, or if you're someone that knows that you have it, maybe this was, cathartic in some some degree. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.